Welcome to the Thriving Farmers Podcast, where our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable and sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Today's podcast guest is Daniel Mays of Frith Farm. Now, Daniel grew up in Chester County, Pennsylvania, where through his Waldorf and Quaker educations, he developed a respect for nature and a sense of environmental responsibility. Since then, he has studied math and physics, taught at a boarding school, high school, bicycled through Mexico, earned a graduate degree in environmental engineering, and worked on a number of farms. He is passionate about farming and excited to have planted roots in Scarborough. He believes farmers should be stewards of the land, not miners of its resources, and that farms should be hubs of the community, not distant sources of its calories. He also believes that economic sustainability need not be sacrificed, but rather can come directly from the union of environmental stewardship and community involvement. Daniel started Frith Farm in November of 2010. So I had a fascinating conversation with Daniel. So I was recommended to Daniel by one of our Small Farm U members, and Kelby said, Michael, you've got to give Daniel a call and schedule him for the podcast because his farm is absolutely amazing. So I did. I'm really glad I did. Talking to Daniel was enlightening and just a great discussion on what it's like to run a no-till farm and how they manage everything they do, because they do a wide range of different things on the farm. And it's really cool too, because Daniel's farm, as we said earlier in this intro, is about community. It's not just a few people on some land in the middle of nowhere. They really value that community aspect and getting people onto the farm to see the farm, and the aspect of a lot of people working the farm. If you check out their website, you see they have a number of people on staff. And that to me is what farming is about. It's really exciting to work with people on a daily basis and to grow great food together. So I hope you'll have a listen and let us know what you think. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
So Daniel, can you give us a little bit more detail about your farm? You've got a very interesting operation going on.
Sure. Yeah, we grow intensive vegetables, organic vegetables without tillage. And we do some small livestock, chickens, turkeys, and laying hens. And we sell everything locally within a 15-mile radius.
Wow. And how is that possible? Are you located near larger cities, or have you just really developed your local markets?
Yeah, I guess somewhere in between. Yeah, we're near a large city for Maine, which is Portland, which is about 65 or 70,000. We're about 15 minutes outside of Portland, but actually we don't even sell that much in the city. We sell mostly in Scarborough, our suburban community here, which is about 30-some thousand people. So yeah, I think it's a combination of location and really developing our local direct-to-consumer connections.
Really interesting. So tell us a little bit about your history. Why do you farm? What got you into it?
Yeah, so it's kind of a combination of selfishness. I just, love being my own boss. I love making my own hours, working outside. I joke that I'm just playing the dirt with friends for a living. But then, there's also sort of, I feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself. I'm feeding my community. I'm hopefully contributing to, a positive environmental impact and, helping build a local economy.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What does sustainable agriculture, more specifically a sustainable farm, mean to you?
It's interesting. Yeah, the word sustainable, I guess, to me just means you can keep doing it indefinitely.
Okay.
So I feel like that's maybe a little bit even too low a bar for us as farmers. We're uniquely positioned to, have a net positive impact, whether you call it regenerative agriculture, restoration agriculture, have a positive impact on the environment, build resources, build soil, build community, make those connections that we've sort of largely lost with the land, and also generate, create jobs and feed the local economy.
Now, I know a large portion of your farming is no-till, and that has a wide range of meanings. How does no-till work on your farm?
Yeah, I guess, agriculture is kind of ecological agriculture is all about sort of managing your disturbance to nature. And then nature responds with, its successions. So I just draw that line of what disturbance we're going to do. I draw it before disturbing the soil. mow, you can graze, you can cover with tarps, you can, these other disturbances that don't disturb the soil with tillage, sort of any kind of mechanical disturbance, whether it's a rototiller or a pitchfork or whatever. The most disturbance we do would be, pulling root crops, or in the case, if we notice some compaction forming, we might use a broad fork, but that's as far as we go.
Gotcha. Now, so in that system, like, how do you go ahead and seed root crops? Is that, do you just rake the top of the soil, or?
Yeah, we do some hand raking when we're going to direct seed. You pull your root crops and you're left with little craters. Kind of have to smooth those over. But otherwise, yeah, it's a combination of cover cropping and knocking those down and planting through the stubble, or flail mowing. And then, spreading compost, planting into that, sort of all the little tricks to, get a plantable surface without disturbing the soil.
Gotcha. So do you produce your own compost? Do you buy that in?
Yeah, we produce some with all our sort of field scraps and animal bedding from, overwintering layers. But I have also bought some in the past, nicely screened compost that I don't have the equipment to make sort of that quality of compost.
Yeah. So to that point, let's talk a little about the equipment you have on your farm. What kind of capitalization have you done on that side?
Yeah, pretty minimal. I call us a human scale farm. So mostly we use hand tools, which allows us to be super intensive.
Yep.
And we do have a BCS walking tractor.
Okay.
I used to initially break the pasture. I did till once, back 8 years ago to form the beds initially. And then we also use it with a flail mower, which is a pretty key, disturbance tool. And then other equipment, we have a small utility tractor with a bucket loader, and that's just to help turn compost and move material around. Yeah, then it's pretty much just a bunch of hand tools and then all the infrastructure for harvest and post-harvest handling.
Yep, absolutely. So as a farmer, there are endless tasks to be done, especially the scale, human scale farms. How do you make sure to focus and tackle your most vital priorities each day?
Sure. Yeah, I have an online spreadsheet, which has sort of a column for each day of the week.
Okay.
I'm constantly kind of reconfiguring and planning that out. It's kind of a real-time update going on that, and it's also shared with all the crew.
Okay.
So everybody gets to see what's going on, and when somebody completes a task, they use the strike-through font, and then it's knocked out. And then, at the end of a day, I'll go back and I'll look what got done. I'll look what is later in the week, and I'll just drag and drop as needed to readjust. And it just takes a few minutes each day, but it means everyone's always on the same page, quite literally.
Yes, that is vital. That is vital. So then, on a daily aspect, what daily habits do you believe strongly contribute to your success?
Yeah, I'd say, that plan is definitely a big part of it, and other plans like a harvest list, for instance, knocking out or laying out the order of what we're going to harvest, how much of each. We have columns for each, wholesale account we're going to deliver to. And then people just move through that list systematically. I guess, in general, it's developing these systems that people can just relax and work within without having to constantly wonder what to do next.
No, that's key. And that's something that we really stress. And we see, very successful farms is if you have everything written down, if you have things planned out, everything is so much lower stress than if you're, at the last minute, the seat of your pants trying to figure things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about, the early days getting started with your farm. Were there any big challenges that you went through as you're developing your systems?
Yeah, absolutely. I started with very little experience. I had less than one season of experience when I bought the land. And I bought the land with a liability of an old farmhouse on it, 200-year-old house that was in serious disrepair, probably should have been condemned.
Okay.
And I started with very little capital. I had little experience, little capital, and started also having to live in and renovate this disaster of a house all at once. It was definitely a challenge from the beginning. Lots of interesting stories from those first couple of years. There's a lot of risk in farming in general, and especially starting out when you don't know exactly what you're doing. So I guess having the courage and maybe even the foolishness to just jump in and get going was key for me.
Yeah. So in those early days, who were your mentors? Because doing what you're doing is a very unique style of farming.
I relied mostly on books. Elliot Coleman's book was a big one for me. A lot of just trial and error learning by doing as well. But I'd say when I read, a couple years in, I read Fukuoka's book, One Straw Revolution. And that kind of opened my mind, blew my mind really, on just a different way of looking at farming rather than like, what can we do and just stay busy all the time? It's like, what can we not do and still have, good results, let nature do the work.
Absolutely. So if there was a magic reset button as relates to starting your farm, what systems would you go back and put into place sooner rather than later?
I think I could have done a lot more cover cropping from an early stage. I was so focused on sort of intensive growing and a lot of use of compost, which was important. I needed to earn income, revenue right away. But I think I've really come around now to see cover crops as the basis of building soil. So I think I could have done that those first years, established a system and a rotation that fit in with my crop plan. My soil would have benefited early on from that.
Gotcha. Now tell us about the mixes of cover crop you're using. Are you doing wide ranges, or you have specific ones you like for specific seasons?
Pretty much depends on the time of year and sort of the amount of time I have within the crop plan. I'm also up in Maine, so certain cover crops will winter kill, which is actually pretty useful in a no-till system, although there's a lot of benefit from overwintering cover crops, keeping that, active biology in the soil right through the winter. So for the overwintered ones, I'll do mostly rye and clover.
Okay.
And that's nice that, it'll start to flower the following May. And I can knock that down, tarp it for a couple of weeks, and then plant right through the stubble.
Okay.
Transplanted crops. During the season, I do a lot of peas and oats. Because they grow quickly and are easy to manage. So I'll do spring peas and oats if I just have, if I'm planting like in June, the next crop, or in the fall, if I can get them in by the beginning of September, that's enough time to get a good pea and oat cover before winter. Yeah.
So then after the cover crop, you said you tarp. Do you have a specific type of tarp, or is it more just a regular general silage tarps that you use to cover the ground?
Yeah, the silage tarps are the cheapest, and actually other tarps you have to be careful. The vinyl tarps are not actually approved for organic use.
Oh, that's really good to know. So the billboard tarps are a no.
Exactly. Yep. There's a line in the NOP standard that says no plastics with vinyl should come in contact with the as mulch on the soil.
Yes. And I'm assuming that's because they leach.
Yeah, I think that's a concern, is that they'd leach or flake off and add those toxins to the soil.
Yeah. So then you're giving it a couple weeks, and then you're planting right through the stubble, and you're finding that that's enough of a cover to keep the weeds down. So how do you manage weeds, or do you just not have a problem with weeds because you've managed them before?
Yeah, more the latter. We practice a zero seed rain of weed approach. So really no weed seeds are being dropped.
Yeah.
Combine that with not tilling, and you really don't have much. You just have whatever blows in. So we have, a good number of dandelions because they blow in. So we just sort of pull those by hand. But otherwise, especially with the rye, the allelopathic effect. Yep. From a 6,000 square foot plot, we literally pulled about 20 weeds all season.
Wow. Yeah. So that makes a huge difference.
For sure.
Yep. So you have a rather large team. I was looking over your website. You have, between 6 and 8 people on the farm at any one time?
Exactly. Yeah. During the, from April through November, we have a crew of 8. Yeah. And that's kind of crazy, I guess, on 2.5 acres of vegetables.
Yes. How do you manage that? I mean, obviously it sounds like you have a very specific spreadsheet system you use, but, how'd you find the right people?
Yeah. So we do an apprenticeship program. So we have 2 or 3 apprentices each year, and those are typically people who have 1 year or less of farming experience. And we sort of train them in our systems and give them an overview, do some educational programming with them, and they get a stipend. And then after that, we encourage, anyone who's a good fit to stay on the next year as more of a manager or hourly worker. So we've basically, next year of those 8 people, 7 are returning.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to add a couple of apprentices. So we'll have a crew of 9 next year. So I think it's a matter of finding people, but more it's a matter of, holding on to the good ones. Because not having to retrain 8 people every year is pretty key.
Absolutely. Now, how do you divide roles? It seems like everyone has a very specific area of responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah, I have 3 different managers. So a field manager, sort of overseeing production, wash and pack manager, overseeing the post-harvest end of things, and then a livestock manager in charge of the animals. And I find, people having roles is a great way to sort of organize a large group of people. And then the apprentices kind of, circle between everything so they get a taste of all the different tasks on the farm.
Yeah, because I know that's one thing some people struggle with is making sure that you're educating as well as having the apprentices just learning by doing. Do you have a specific like a weekly or maybe a monthly session that you do with them more just as education? Or how do you structure that side of the relationship?
Yeah. So we have a scheduled weekly, we have community dinner every week. And then as ideally after that, we meet. Sometimes people are tired and don't want to. So it's flexible, but ideally it would be once a week. There's sort of a discussion and educational workshop of some kind. We're also part of the MOFGA, Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association.
Yep.
Apprenticeship Program. So they organize different farm tours and workshops once a week as well throughout the season. And I give the apprentices time and plenty of time to get to those and time off as needed for those. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the beginning side of farming. What's the biggest mistake that you see new beginning farmers making?
I think for small-scale direct market vegetable farm, the biggest mistake I see is trying to farm in the middle of nowhere. Because I think with vegetables are so perishable and valuable that if you're selling them direct market, trying to find those markets far away from the farm and developing those community connections when they're not actually in your community can be really hard. So I think marketing is often the sort of weak link of those farms. It also takes so little area to grow, vegetables relative to other crops that it kind of makes sense to squeeze them in close to where people are. Yeah. I guess I'd, encourage the small vegetable farmer to not get seduced by the rolling open hills of the country. Try to stay close to town.
Gotcha. And so to that point, how many acres do you have total where you are?
Yeah, I have 5 open acres. I have another few acres in the woods. And then a couple acres around the house. So it's a 14-acre property with 5 open acres.
Gotcha. And then you're farming 2.5. Now with that 2.5, do you rotate that 2.5 around that 5 acres or is it more of a permanent areas?
Yeah, it's a permanent bed system. With the no-till, it makes sense. And then I rotate animals around the perimeter. So it's all pretty tight. We're using pretty much every square foot of the property.
Gotcha. And tell me a little bit more about the animals. Do you have those large production systems to sell, or are those more for you and the team? Or
yeah, they're commercial. Yeah, we have 500 layers. On a pastured system, we move them every other day. The eggmobile every other day, and then the fence every 5 days. And we gross maybe 25,000 a year from eggs. And same with the meat chickens. We've done anywhere from 300 to 800 in a year. And we sell those all direct to consumer. We process them here on the farm. Same with turkeys. We do 100 turkeys each year for Thanksgiving.
Gotcha. Now, do you find that the eggs are a major revenue source, or is it more just for cleaning the area, or?
Yeah, all of the above. It's not a major revenue source, certainly compared to the vegetables, but it is profitable. It's not, it's not sucking revenue.
Yes.
I would say it really helps attract customers and give people a reason to come visit the farm, which is a value that's hard to put a, economic amount to.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, an attractive product to have at market. So that helps round things out there too.
So what breeds are you doing?
Yeah, just heritage breeds. So we have Rhode Island Reds, Black Australorps, and Barred Rocks, and the the Americanas.
Yep. Those are always fun.
Yeah, the green eggs are fun.
Yep. So are you doing organic grain for those, or GMO free, or how are you managing that?
Yep, they're all certified organic. We have a 4-ton grain bin, and we get deliveries about every 5 or 6 weeks.
Gotcha. So then it sounds like the organic grain in Maine is a well-developed system.
Yeah, I'd say in New England it is. We actually get it from Vermont. Over. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know some of the places, farmers we work with, they're just in the middle of nowhere, and getting even organic grain is almost impossible.
Yeah, there are definitely challenges here in Maine too. I think it takes some convincing sometimes to get the Vermont grain mill to deliver out here.
Gotcha. So let's move and talk into more of the marketing side of your business. You sounds like you've done an incredible job being able to, keep the amount of people you have on your farm employed. You said you farmers markets. Tell us a little bit more about the marketing strategy that you've moved into.
Yeah. I have a diversified direct market strategy.
Okay.
So I have a CSA. We have 150 families come to the farm every week throughout the season. We don't do any deliveries of boxes. We don't box anything. We just lay it all out in the barn and they come and choose what they want. They get a set number of items.
Okay.
And that choice is key, I think, in keeping CSA attractive.
So in any 1 week, how many varieties do you usually have at your pickups?
Yeah, we usually have between 12 and 20 some choices. Okay.
So nice wide variety.
Yeah, good spread. And we always have the staples of garlic, onions, carrots, at least when they're in season, lettuce. And so we couple the CSA with one local farmers market, and we've really built up a customer base there. That's also a great way to attract new CSA members.
Yep.
Have that presence in town. And then we have 4 different natural food store accounts. So those 3 areas really work in symbiosis so that we have pretty much zero waste of products we're growing.
Gotcha. Now tell us about the wholesale side. Do you do all your crops? Do you do a range of your crops that are more profitable on the wholesale scale, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do a lot of salad greens and root crops for wholesale, but also I see wholesale as a way of basically whatever is in surplus
Gotcha.
from the CSA and market, then we can sell at a slightly lower price. And I say wholesale, but really, some people consider that direct market because you're selling to a locally owned food store, grocer in your community.
Yeah.
Rather than a third party distributor. So,
and how do you package the stuff that's going wholesale? Is it bulk, or do you guys have bagged so you can show your branding on it? How does that work?
Yeah, just bulk. Yeah, we don't do any individualized bagging except for market. So just 5-pound bags of salad greens, 25-pound bags of roots. It's quick and easy to pack, and then everyone knows us in the area pretty much anyway. So branding isn't as much a concern.
So you've spent the time now getting people understanding who you are, and so it makes it a lot easier to sell it on the wholesale side. Absolutely, yeah, and our partners, the grocers, the natural food stores, do a great job of marketing us as well. They make little signs and stuff that say where the food is from. Yeah. So then with the wholesale side, do you view that as an extension too of pulling people into your CSA? Absolutely. Yep. The progression tends to be they find our stuff at a natural food store, then they start coming to market, and then they join as a CSA. So we're sort of drawing them closer and closer, and eventually they're part of the farm community. Gotcha. You've used that word repeatedly, community. Tell us what you feel that means and what other ways you cultivate that to make sure that you build that in your farm. Sure. Yeah, I think community is such a big part of farming, not just as an ideal, but as a part of its success economically. So having a community of workers who love being on the farm, enjoy their time there. A lot of our crew actually live on the farm too. We provide housing. And then just welcoming your customers. We have an open door policy, anytime, any day, at any time. People can come visit. We encourage them to walk around, see how their food is grown. We have a little farm store set up on the farm. They can buy some food. We do events and tours and workshops and stuff to encourage that. Because that direct connection, once somebody sets foot on your farm and sees what you're doing, they really, I feel like something clicks, and they're a much more loyal customer. It's about much more than any food fad or anything else at that point. It's a human connection. Yeah, it's almost like they own the farm. They feel like they have some ownership in it at that point. Exactly, yeah, and I encourage them to see it that way, like this farm is theirs as well. Yeah, and I think when they're on the farm, they can start to see the soil, how much you love and you care for that too, and that obviously is a huge part of that. For sure. Yeah. So then you have the farmers market, and do you try to have a wide range of things at the farmers market, or is it more, the excess from your CSA? No, the farmers market, we do try to have the full spread. Okay. So we'll typically have, at least 20 crops, but as many as 35 or 40. And, not all of those are, selling out or whatever, but I think people really appreciate seeing some of the funky vegetables like
celeriac. I sort of believe in that educational side of things too for the consumer. At Farmers Market, we're basically giving a display of what the farm is and what we do to the public. So I think it's important to have a good spread, not just sort of the surplus carrots or something.
Exactly. Now, do you grow things like kohlrabi, that sort of?
We do. Yep.
Yes.
Kohlrabi and, all the different specialty radishes and, sort of Asian greens. Yeah, we grow over 40 different crops.
Wow. Now, with that, how do you educate people about those more unusual crops? Do you have like recipe cards or do you do sampling?
Yeah, we do. We definitely do sampling. I'm known to just sort of shove a slice of vegetable at people as they walk by the stand.
Okay.
But and recipe cards are always a goal of ours. Often we don't pull it off in time. But mostly it's just conversation, talking to people, answering their questions, making them try it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you personally go to all the farmers markets, or is it something where you're comfortable sending some of the crew? Yeah,
I go to pretty much every one, but I bring a different member of the crew each time so that they all get a taste of it. And it's pretty much a 2-person job at this point anyway, because we're pretty busy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're growing Solanaceous crops too, and do you do those in tunnels or?
Yeah, some in tunnels, some outdoors. We do all the heirloom tomatoes in tunnels, and then the cherry tomatoes and peppers and eggplants outdoors.
Gotcha. And are you grafting tomatoes, or are you just doing regular?
Yeah, just regular starts as of now. I just did a grafting workshop, so I'm toying with that idea. For now, we just start the seeds in March in the greenhouse and transplant them out April.
Gotcha. So so it sounds like you've got a multi-tier marketing approach. You got the wholesale, you got the farmers market, then the kind of the core of your farm is the 150-person CSA. Does that usually sell out every single year? And do you have how do you go about launching that every single year?
Yeah, so people are already signing up now. I give a discount if they sign up by the end of the year for the following season. That works out well with the holiday season too. I encourage people to give a CSA share as a gift.
Okay.
It usually works out pretty well that as we've grown, so has the demand.
Yep.
I think I only capped it 1 year. Otherwise, I've just let that growth determine how big we are. And that works well too, because, if we have more and more CSA members, then I can do less and less wholesale. So it's with those 3 tiers, it's sort of a self-correcting balancing system.
Gotcha. So then with the marketing, do you feel like you need to do you try to focus on doing email marketing or through Facebook, or is it just you're saying, we're doing wholesale, the farmer's market, and whatever comes of that? Yeah,
at this point, we're mostly word of mouth. So that's the best form of advertising. I believe. We do have a website and we do have an Instagram account, but I see those more as just, communicating what we're doing rather than trying to sort of garner new customers.
Gotcha.
Really rely on, the current CSA members are the evangelists, and they go out and tell their friends and neighbors, and that's how we get new members.
Yeah. So I know the one thing I've keep seeing lately is that people are feeling the Maine food scene is becoming very competitive. Have you felt that? Are you seeing that out there?
Yeah, I'm seeing that for sure. I'm lucky in that my markets are pretty established and I'm not trying to grow beyond them. And also I'm in a populated area of the state. But I have definitely seen, I mentor beginning farmers and I'm part of the MAFCA community. And I definitely see a lot of new farms popping up, all over the state. And that's why I mentioned proximity to markets is a really important one for vegetables in particular, because I see that being a challenge for some beginning farmers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how big Maine is as a state.
Yeah, you can drive for 6 hours and still be in Maine. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, the next generation. You said you're doing some mentoring. What kind of things are you telling them besides the proximity in the market? What strategies are you recommending they focus on to ensure success?
Probably the biggest one is a systems approach, a holistic way of viewing not just your farm, but the ecology and the world, really. So don't think of what tools do I need? What amendments do I need? Think of the systems, the patterns that are going to be on your farm, and view the world through that lens, thinking holistically. I think that, getting that to click and, reading Alan Savory's books, changing that sort of a broad approach rather than any specific one practice, I think is pretty key.
Gotcha. So just having an open mind as they're starting then.
Yeah, and just really thinking holistically, seeing the farm as a system, sort of accepting that everything you do is connected to everything else you do, and ecologically, every plant and soil organism on your farm are connected to each other in a system. So it's not just a matter of adding, the right nitrogen at the right time. It's a matter of fostering that whole community.
Yes, if you change one thing, everything else in the farm will change as well. Frequently,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if you could pick one, what would be your favorite farming tool?
Gosh, I'd say probably the wheelbarrow. We're a human scaled farm.
Yep.
And to be able to wheel something around and then use gravity to spread it. Yeah, we use a lot of wheelbarrows. We spread, compost and such that way, leaves for leaf mulch. So yeah, I think it's pretty basic, but it enables a lot for us.
Yeah. Now, do you have a specific brand or specific type that you like, or?
Yeah, I just get them from the local hardware store, like $40, $50 a piece.
Gotcha. So
they're not the top tier, but we also abuse them a lot. So I'm able to, replace them and piece them together from broken ones. I think we have eight or 10 wheelbarrows. So
okay.
Of them, and they're all interchangeable parts. So that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. So then back to the harvesting, are you just carrying your harvest bins into your wash and pack area, or are you using something to transport those?
Yeah, we have the garden carts,
okay.
Vermont carts that can hold, 9 crates full of vegetables. So that really helps. And we are, small enough that you're only ever walking a couple 100 feet at a time.
Yeah.
Bed of carrots or something, we have a little pickup truck we can drive out there to make it a little easier.
Gotcha. So you are using that to kind of speed that along. And what would you say your top crops are? It sounds like you do a lot of greens and roots.
Yep, a lot of greens and roots and garlic. I'd say, garlic, salad greens, and especially carrots. Those are probably top 3. So tomatoes are obviously very profitable, and we've grown a lot of, we've scaled up with ginger and turmeric as well in the greenhouses.
Okay, and are you finding that those are going to the retail or the wholesale?
Going to all our markets, actually. Yeah, we give it out in CSA. We take it to market, and we sell to the natural food stores.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ginger and turmeric are pretty popular in Maine right now. More and more farmers are trying them out.
Yep.
And you're able to get a pretty good crop in a high tunnel during the season here.
And what's your price point on, let's say, turmeric?
Yeah, wholesale we do like $12 or $13 a pound. Retail it's like $18 a pound.
Yeah. Now turmeric too is a very long season crop, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the seeds super early then, transplanting it into the tunnel, and when do you start harvesting? It's
kind of a waiting game. Like ideally you wait as long as possible, but then you have to harvest it quickly before the frost gets in there. It's not frost tolerant at all. So yeah, it tends to be in October. That's sort of our harvest window, sometime in October.
Gotcha. And can you store that at all in the cooler, or is it something that you have to move out right away?
Yeah, you have to move it within a week to 10 days. That's about how long it stores. Then it can start to get a little, start to break down a little bit. If you want to store it longer, you have to freeze it.
Okay, gotcha. And are you getting that from the Hawaii seed people, or where are you finding good quality
Exactly,
seed?
Yeah, the Biker Dude organic seed there.
Yeah, he seems like he's pretty much the only person doing good quality at the moment.
Yeah, definitely that I know of. He's the one.
Yeah. All right, so to wrap everything up, do you feel that now is the best time to be starting to farm? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think the present is always the best time to start. Just
okay.
I think there's real momentum now, especially just kind of unprecedented energy and innovation in small scale farming, and just a changing worldview. A paradigm shift is happening toward more biological farming, away from chemical farming. And I think consumers are also waking up to the fact they want to eat food that actually has nutrition in it. So yeah, I feel like there's a movement underway, and now's as good a time as any to get on board with that.
All right. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today, and we really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.